Welcome to my live stream live from Bangkok. In today's Red Pill news, the top story is the UK government just got red pilled as they've ordered this study to prove that the red pill content and manosphere is damaging and bad for young men and boys. And boy, they got red pilled. It came back saying, yeah, not really. You should probably re-examine your views on the red pill community. As a matter of fact, it helps men to improve themselves, to get in better health, to earn more money. And also, it is the only space for them to talk about men's issues, because when they do it outside of that space, they get called misogynists and sexists, and that's where the problem actually lies. So, uh, which government would be next to get red pilled? Hopefully, the American government. But if you think about it, why wouldn't the modern women today in the Sims who serve them not want to raise the next generation of boys and men as beta males and Sims? This current generation is doing such a good job serving these women by being second class citizens. And this is why we're seeing the mainstream media putting out hit pieces like this.
We turn now to growing concerns around the proliferation of misogyny online.
Yeah, and also, of course, there is the Netflix miniseries Adolescence that also talk about the same thing. That's not really happening just yet, because again, it makes all the sense in the world. All the sense in the world as the current generation of Western men, and I see them even here in Thailand, are beta males and simps, and they have no idea that they are second class citizens and that they're doing nothing but serving the women of the Western societies. The manosphere helps men to wake up and get some self-respect and get some self-esteem and say, no, no, I'm no longer okay with that. I also want equal rights, which Western men don't really have in America and the UK. So the manosphere is extremely important to essentially saving the endangered species that real men are. And I've mentioned the PBS News Hour here, and I'm going to actually go over it in my future videos, because like I said, I understand why they're concerned, but at the same time, we should be concerned about them being concerned, right? So let's talk about this study. And it is a long and boring research paper with a lot of text and no pictures, so nobody really wants to look at it, but I did, because there's a I gotta say, the research did not just say, "Oh yeah, no, this is both." No, it did say that some boys are being radicalized and all that stuff, which is none of it is true, right? But what I'm saying is, even when the research like this comes back and says, "Ooh, we did find stuff that was really good," the rest of it is basically shit. So let me share some quotes with you from this research. These are direct quotes from the research, right? I didn't want a summary. I didn't want to quote some other articles. Actually, that's how I found it. I found it from the article that said, hey, this research that the UK government ordered comes back and says, yeah, it's really not true. And of course, no mainstream media is going to cover this, because why would they go against themselves? And what producer of what show is going to allow this type of content anyway, right? Okay, so let's go over a few quotes that I found. Now, by the way, see, as you can see on the back, on at the bottom, and this is their website. The study was done by Ofcom, which stands for the Office for Communications, right? This is essentially a government watchdog over the media in the UK, right? So they definitely had their own agenda, right? Okay, so it says several interviewees emphasized that manosphere spaces offer them support, advice, and solidarity that they felt was lacking elsewhere in their lives. This is a very nice way of saying, hey, listen, if we're talking about what it's like to be a man, if we call women out on their bullshit, on social media even, A lot of times we get our accounts canceled, we get our comments deleted, and in real world we can even lose our jobs because people will call us misogynists and sexists and so forth. So we want to talk about it because some men are not even the red pill alpha males. They're just starting to figure out what's going on. I have some personal friends who, after meeting me recently, started to question, and they started to point out to go like, well, that's a simp, huh? Oh, and she's gold digging, right? She has no interest in that guy, right? So they're starting, their brains are starting to work. This is what the red pill movement is all about. Restart men's brains that are not really connected to the reality. This is why this is called the red pill. We got to get these men out of matrix. They've been just kind of conditioned by the modern women and other sims that you're just supposed to serve the women of your community and be the second class citizen and never complain, because if you complain, you're a misogynist and a sexist. So majority of western men don't even know what is happening to them, and the red pill concepts and the philosophy just tells them, listen, wake up and think for yourself. If you want to continue being a simp, fine, but at least have a choice in your own hand if you want to be one, because right now you don't even have a choice because you're not even thinking about it. So this is a very, very nice way of putting that. All right, let's go to the next one. But also, let me take a quick. Oh, The Rock is back in the live chat. So let's say The Rock says dating in the West is a humiliation ritual. You know, that is a. I'm going to stop here and think, because that is very true. It is a humiliation ritual. It is as if men were brainwashed to bow before women. Well, don't say as if. That's what happened, and it is still happening. They worship women and they act as if they want to be actually exploited by them. Yeah, again, print this out and crochet it on every man's pillow that they have to read before going to bed every night, right? This is, you know, and okay. He also says this is called Stockholm syndrome. It has a wiki article. Yeah, so just in case if you guys don't know what the Stockholm syndrome is when a victim of a crime actually starts feeling closeness and likes the actual criminal. So, for example, this happens during like long hostage situations, right? If, let's say, somebody got taken the hostage, and the hostages, start developing, sometimes, for example, women would develop a romantic relationship with the hostage taker, right? If you ever seen the movie The Money Heist or TV series, that happened there multiple times, right? It is a Stockholm syndrome. This guy should really have his own channel, because every time you say something, I feel like I find a nugget, and I'm going to quote this. This is great. Um, Stockholm syndrome is a proposed condition. Oh, now you're explaining it. Sorry, I got ahead of you. Stockholm syndrome is a proposed condition or theory that tries to explain why hostages sometimes develop a psychological bond with captors. That also goes to, for domestic violence and many other sort of criminal situations, if you will. So, no, you got it absolutely right on the money. And, the, this is the society that we live in. And the biggest sort of shock to me has always been these men here in Thailand, where these are Western men that come to Thailand and don't have to simp anymore, right? Don't have to deal with American or Western women anymore. Have access to wonderful, submissive and family oriented women, and they specifically come here and they find the ratchet westernized Thai hoes, and those are the women they go after. And of course they continue to simp because these Thai women figured out, a lot of them, how to take advantage of a Western man. It ain't that hard, it ain't that hard. So I'll give you an interesting story. So one of my friends that I mentioned, that I recently started to hang out with more and more, we started having conversations because, of what I do. And he started to point out here and there that, oh, that guy's simping. And, this girl's taking advantage of that guy, but he's being a simp. Yeah. But the other day, he kind of simped himself and didn't even notice. Now, I'm going to be very careful about how I bring it up to him, because we're not that great of friends. Like, he can, I mean, I've noticed that when you call out a simp, they get offended, as a, someone who's not man enough to take criticism would. But I don't want to lose a friend, because, I mean, listen, most of my friends are simps, and the other half is essentially paying their women to be with them, even though they might be married to them in a long term relationships. So, what happened, and again, I don't think he realized it, so we made some plans for one of the nights to go out, and then the last second he goes like, yeah, my girlfriend actually is going to come back to town, in a long distance relationship on top of that, but that's fine. My girlfriend comes to town, earlier than she said, so I'm going to go hang out with her. And I'm like, wow, he didn't even realize that he just simped like a little bitch for that girl and didn't even notice. So I'm going to, at the right moment, next time I hang out with him, which will be tonight for sure, uh good to ask him. I say, hey, like, you call other men simps, which is, correct, but have you ever simped yourself? And I'm just going to see the reaction, and we'll see if the conversation gets to where I will point out that, we had plans, and she came back, and you drop everything. She changed her plan and expected you to change your plan, and you did. That's simping 101. So all right, now let's move on to the next quote. So I got like 6 different quotes from this very study, right? Okay, so in this one, it says participants described finding a sense of community and belonging in online manosphere spaces where they could speak freely about their experiences as men. Yeah, so I mean, again, this is another thing that I don't think men understand. You cannot freely have a conversation about this, about what it's like to be a man, about the challenges, about the men's issues, and specifically about the women that have made men into second class citizens. Anywhere. I mean, even here, when in Thailand, when I go and I hang out with some of the Western people, including Western women, um, because people ask, what do you do, whatever, are you single and stuff like that, why you came, to Thailand, and all of that leads to my red pill views. And I try to put them, there as polite as possible, because I'm a regular at some of these meetups and stuff like that. And it does not go very well with women, for sure. The other day I was actually talking to, I mean, I knew she was a westernized woman, but she was a Pakistani woman who lived in China for like 15 years, and she just came here, and we were talking about why I came here. And I spent quite some time, just kind of, because she was very nice at first, and overall she was nice, but I kind of was explaining to her some of the nuances of living here. But then she was asking me like why I came here. I explained, and then we started talking about how difficult it is for Western women to date here. And I don't know if she considers herself a Western woman or not, but at the end of the day, well, I don't want to say at the end of the day, at the end of like a 20-minute conversation, she excused herself to go to the bathroom and never came back to the main area of the mixer. I and this, by the way, this happens all the time. Almost every conversation that I have with a Western woman ends up with them just leaving, because they cannot fathom, they just cannot stand somebody calling them out in general, their species, on all of the bullshit that they've been essentially kind of spreading. And a lot of times men do the same thing. The other day there was another mixer, and somebody was asking me what kind of girl I'm looking for, and it was a guy, right? And I was like, just can't be a single mother, can't have tattoos. And the guy goes like, whoa, 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 what do you mean tattoos? Like, and I'm like, you don't know? He's like, okay. So I was kind of started to explain to him, and he was like, he was just fucking disgusted that some men would have standards and would say that, yeah, I don't date women with tattoos for these reasons, right? And one of them is actually medical reason, right? When a girl, the tattoos are not good for your health. That's a scientific fact. You can ask your doctor. Don't shoot the messenger, right? So my theory, really, and my view is that if a girl doesn't really care about her own body much, where she would do that to it, why would she care about my health? You know what I mean? And that's not even my main really beef with women with tattoos. But I always said I love women with tattoos. That's a very visual red flag that helps me to avoid them and save time and money. So love that. But while I was saying him, and he was definitely getting like, whoa, that is. there was another girl with tattoos who overheard that, came over and said, wait, what's up with women? I was like, are you sure you want to know? She's like, oh yeah, bring it on. 5 minutes and she was like, oh, I can't stand this, I cannot stand this. So it is definitely embedded in a lot of men, that they don't really realize it. I got to tell you, a lot of times I'm thinking like, doing this live streams, posting these videos, I have to work very hard to find the stories. They're not very easy to find, right? And I'm essentially doing this for kind of free right now. And I'm just wondering, like, next time I'm waking up tomorrow, do I want to do this? Because I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. The social media platforms are not allowing this content to flourish. You can probably see my views, or I can probably take a megaphone, go outside and reach more people that YouTube or TikTok allows me to reach here, right? And when I do reach men, I don't reach them. They hear me, but they don't listen. So a lot of times I question my own sort of purpose here. Is it worth it, right? Still don't know the answer yet. The Rock says dating crisis in the West will eventually go away. Really? In the future, more women will be fed up that they chased chads in their youth, and then nature will sort out undetermined women. Femininity will triumph. That is, that is that is a hope that I have, but I don't see that happening, because you're counting on the new generation of women learning the lessons from the previous generation. And yes, I've made videos based on many TikTok videos and social media posts that I see from older women or women with tattoos saying like, whoa, don't fuck around in your 20s, try to find a husband, don't chase a career, try to find a husband, don't put tattoos anywhere in your body, you're going to regret it, right? I see those videos, but then I see a million other videos from the new generation where I'm saying, fuck you, your grandmother, like, I love my tattoos, you know what I mean? So the generations are rarely learn from the lessons from the previous generations. That's why I don't think this is going to work in this case either. I've said it many times. Unfortunately, I think the solution is the AI and robotics. Replacing women altogether with AI and robotics. AI is pretty much almost here, right? We know that if you talk to the AI girlfriend app, she will be much nicer to you than any woman would be, Western woman for sure, right? And I always challenge men. I said, go ahead, message your girlfriend or wife in the middle of the day, and then message the same thing, to ChatGPT or AI girlfriend, and you will see who will be more, well, we'll know who will reply faster, but who will be more empathetic, who will be nicer, who will be much more, kind to you. Do it. Don't take my word for it. So I think the answer to this problem, unfortunately, will be AI, and then essentially humanoid robots replacing women. Because don't forget, women are so delusional that because men made them into the Lululand citizens, that they are not also trying to learn lessons, right? And by the way, it's very nice to be a Western woman right now, right? You don't have to do shit, and you get all of these men, showering you with compliments and money. You don't even have to be pretty anymore. You don't really have to be pretty. If you're a pretty girl, then you're just gonna have a bunch of just, you're gonna feel like you're a fucking celebrity. You had to be movie star 20 years ago to get a treatment that good looking women now get. But you can just be an average looking girl and you will be treated like a princess. Why would women want to change? Why would they see a problem with it? Yes, a lot of them are lonely. A lot of them end up on antidepressants, but that's later in life, right? And by the time they do that, they're like, well, yeah, but I have my own money. And there's cats over here, right? I can afford my own antidepressants. So I don't see men learning from this that much, though I hope that the new generation of boys and men are getting red pilled hard enough to have some self respect and hopefully push back. But with women, I honestly don't see it happening. I mean, I just talked to a girl. Here's another example, by the way. So I matched up with, as you know, I love black women. There's not that many of them here, but I matched with a girl on one of the OkCupid, I think, right? And I matched with her. I would say she is a 6 in terms of her looks, right? But beggars can be choosers. If anything, maybe I'll get laid, and that's never bad. So I started talking to her, and she told me she's been here for 5 years. No, sorry, 3 years, and her dating life is shit. which it is. Western women in generally don't do well here in terms of getting into a relationship or getting married. Pretty much none of them do, and a lot of them end up leaving or just living with their lonely lives and conceding to that. But a black woman here does even worse, right? Because how many guys like me who would actually take a black girl over a Thai girl or even a white girl, right? Like three of us maybe. So, and now she lived kind of far from me for about an hour. And we started talking about, hey, how's this going to work? And she basically said, well, we can only see each other on weekends because that's the only time when I can come here to Bangkok, because she's like on outskirts. She's still technically in Bangkok. And I was like, oh, so you just want to have like a casual part-time relationship? She's like, no, I want to have an a real relationship. I was like, wait, what do you mean? So we're going to see each other 2 out of 7 days, and you're going to somehow think that's going to be satisfactory for me, and generally this is going to be a relationship? I said, you gotta have to figure out how to become a little bit more available. And like I said, I don't mind traveling to you once in a while as well. But she didn't even want to, because we were trying to plan a date, and I think it was Sunday. And I was like, yeah, I really like the area that she lives in, and I go there anyway. So I said, I don't mind going there, which I normally don't do, but because I told her I'm going to bring my laptop. So if your ass doesn't show up, I'm still going to be in the mall that I like, at the coffee shop that I like, with my laptop working. So I didn't mind doing that. And I said, and she was like, no, during the week, I'm tired after work. I'm, you're a fucking teacher. What, you tired of what? So she just would just refuse to make this work, where we would like, where is it like, it's a man that's trying to organize a more in-person meetings with a woman, and the woman goes like, nah, it's just too much, I'm tired, and my buses, and I of course I told her to fuck off, but because I'm like, I'm not dealing with the shit. But the audacity, right? Like, this girl found a golden nugget. This is the golden nugget, right? A Western man who lives here, who's looking for a long-term relationship with a black woman in Thailand, right? And she does not want to make an extra step to even give herself a chance. And mind you, like, I, I would be like, I would need to see what she looks like in person, because if she looks like her pictures, that would not be good enough. She's just not pretty enough, I would say, to be in a relationship with. So an average looking black girl in Thailand looking for a relationship, seeing that in 3 years she got nowhere with men, doesn't want to make an extra step, take an extra bus to get to a man who's actually interested. So this is how delusional these women are, and they're perfectly okay with being lonely, right? She could have, right now, we could have been on a date, but she chose to just be lonely and single instead. It doesn't scare women anymore, right? Because the people who used to scare women and say like, you don't want to do this, right, were their parents who were together, who were also in the relationship and knew what it is. Now it's the single mothers. And when they do have fathers, they're just simps and beta males who don't know to explain this to their precious little princesses. So that's what I'm talking about. I'll take another quick question. Have you considered creating a third channel covering mass migration to the West? I predict you'll have interesting opinions, and it's just a subject of increasing popularity. So I thought about it, because honestly, I'm not going to lie. I've been doing this for 8 months, and I'm getting really tired. It is very difficult for it's very difficult for men's content, this type of content, to make it out there. As you know, there are very few influencers kind of made it, and they kind of took this whole thing by storm, and they had big budgets. They were already millionaires in some cases, right? So, and everyone's doing it, and you can be just a random dude making a video out of his car, right, having no research whatsoever, and TikTok will blow that video up. And someone like me who's sitting here all day doing research, I mean, look at this fucking article. I mean, sorry, the research that I just went over with, right? I mean, did I show this to you here? Let me show this to you. Uh, hmm. Sorry, let me reload it. But it is a very long, boring article that nobody wants to read. And I went over this. I had it analyzed with here, right? I had it analyzed with ChatGPT. I pulled some quotes, right? I read a bunch of them. Look, this is just a table of content that takes the entire page. You know, all day long, I'm sitting here. Look, I'm designing nice graphics for you. Like, this picture took a while to to create, right? I didn't get it from the stock or whatever. This really is a picture that I've used. So it's, and then after that, getting pretty much no views and working for free is not exactly satisfying. My goal, is not to be popular so I'm popular. That obviously is not always good, if you know what I mean, right? But I want to be popular to help more and more men, and that's not happening. So I'm actually been thinking about kind of maybe transitioning this channel a little bit into just Passport Bro, because that's kind of started, right? As you know, the course that I spent 3 months creating is about how to move overseas. Um, so yeah, and I understand why a lot of people would want to move out of America or Great Britain or whatever. For many other reasons, that's not women. But I don't know if I want to be a travel expat channel. Really, maybe I do. But this is something that I really need to think about it. But and also I don't want to jump on a trend. Yes, right now everybody wants to move out of America. In 3 years everyone's gonna want to go back to America, right? But I won't, because my reason to be out of America is not just the killings and a shitty healthcare and shitty culture and all that stuff. It really was driven by women that I cannot deal with. And every time I come across a Western woman, it's never a pleasant experience. So I'm not going to be going back to America or a Western country just specifically because I don't want to be around Western women. It's not even a sexual thing or a romantic thing or dating thing anymore. It's really just these bitches are so fucking entitled. The other day, and by the way, somebody told me there's a name for it. The other day, I was walking down the walkway, and they're pretty narrow here, right? And I'm going on the right side where it is, and I see two Western women coming my way. Now, if these were Thai women, for example, who are walking on their own fucking country and seeing a foreigner, right? If they were Thai women, they would, of course, try to get on their part of their own. But one of these bitches was just walking straight, like in the middle, right? Now, of course, her expectations was that me, being probably a simp that she assumed and a beta male that she's used to, will go to the side and let the princess go. No, I didn't. This is Thailand. So she hit my shoulder. I hit her shoulder. And I was ready for it. So it was a little bit harder than if I didn't expect for it, and just keep fucking walking. This is what man needs to do. This is what I do here also. Don't back down from women, because every time, I mean, this was a fucking physical interaction with a Western woman who just didn't want to not be a cunt and go on her side of the road so I can pass without having to like scratch my back against the wall. No, no. And there are very few men who do that, right? They basically back down. So again, I kind of questioning. Okay, let me go back to the rocks comment. Men need to stop DMing women on Instagram. That way, women will be less spoiled. Uh, I, I mean, why Instagram? Why not everywhere else? You can DM a girl on Instagram. I don't like, by the way, it's such a fucking wimpy, shitty way to contact a woman. Instagram is not a dating app. You know, if you want to approach a woman, approach her where she appears to be single, out and about, or on a dating apps where they're supposed to be single, even though that's not usually the reason why women come to the dating apps, but that's, we've covered that many times before. But it's what happens when you do, right? I want to share so many of my conversations with women. They're very short. They're one-page conversations, right? The other day, I messaged this girl, say, "How are you?" She said, "Good." I said, I think she was African or whatever. But let's just pretend I'd say, "What brings you to Thailand?" "Oh, do you live here permanently or just visiting?" "I live here." "Oh, great. Well, that's great. What brings you to Thailand? Do you speak Thai?" Uh, Job. You know, After that, you should unmatch her. She's obviously not interested. She's obviously expecting you to ask her questions, but at some point she'll say, "Well, there's too many questions," right? She's waiting for you to start simping for her. That's why she's on a dating app. That's why you should. But most guys will carry this conversation all the way to maybe paying for dinner, right? So it's not about DMing women on Instagram or whatever. It's what happens when you DM. Most men are fucking pussies and simps, and they simp for these women, and women. That's why when I approach the same women, I go like, "What the fuck?" This woman replies to me once a fucking day with one word answer and doesn't ask any questions back. I mean, how are you? Good. fuck off, bitch. If you said good, if the girl just said good to you, move on right away. The correct answer is good. How about you? If the girl cannot muster up that means she doesn't give a fuck about you. She's not interested. She just wants the one-way conversation to collect all of the compliments and sometimes money and move on to another guy. So, but men don't do that. So it's not about DMing and talking to women on that. It's really about what it is that you say. That's much more important. All right, let me move on to the third quote, which is from this UK research. In addition to negative material, now this is them saying there's a negative material. I call it a positive material, but potato, right? Participants also reported encountering content focused on self-improvement, fitness, and personal responsibility, which they consider beneficial. Yeah, you bitches at that research center and the UK government should also consider this beneficial for men, which red pill movement teaches you. Personal responsibility, something that Western women don't even know what it is. Like they just literally don't know. Self improvement, yes, women don't fucking do that ever. They don't know what it is. Fitness, that goes for both sexes, but women also. I mean, I'm afraid to go back to America to see how many fat women are there who are proudly to be fat. How many fat women in America that I saw with the belly rings where the belly sticks out than any other organ out of their bodies, you know? I mean, I live in Southeast Asia, so the fact that half of the American women are fat and still have dudes who are trying to fuck them is beyond me anymore. So yes, this is a very good finding of this research that was ordered by the UK government, trying to essentially getting red pilled by their own research. This is beneficial. The red pill movement is very much beneficial to men. And I'm glad that somebody did research about it, though I could have just told them and saved them the money. All right, the next one. Younger participants, in particular, described the manosphere as a space where they could explore questions about masculinity and what it means to be a man in the modern world. What is the answer to that question, even? Most young men don't know. What is it like to be a man in the modern world? Who's going to tell them? Their simp daddies, their beta male daddies, if they have one. Most of the time, it's their single mothers who are telling them how to be a man, which is essentially to be a simp and a beta male and serve the women in a society. Nobody tells them that. The mainstream media doesn't. They actually do the opposite as well. So who's going to tell them, right? Somebody has to, and it has to be one of the few male species that are still left in the community, in the society, in the Western societies, like myself. I have to tell them what a man is. Literally, part of my course that I have for people to purchase so they can understand how what the process of moving to another country is, which I think is the only way to deal with Western women, is to get the fuck out of there. I have to spend an entire chapter there, an entire module explaining to men what a good traditional woman is, because most men don't know what it is because they're really just not men anymore. So this is very important. This is a very important purpose that the red pill community and in manosphere serves. And the last one says some participants framed their engagement positively. Wow, what a surprise! As the manosphere provided alternative narratives. By the way, what a bullshit way of saying reality to those they perceived as dominant in mainstream culture and media. Yeah. It's kind of funny that, a lot of people say, yeah, mainstream media, we need to have some reality. Mainstream media is not providing reality on either side or whatever. But when it comes to this, all of a sudden, mainstream media is okay, right? Nobody makes more simps and beta males, besides single mothers, of course, than the mainstream media in the Western societies. It is a fucking problem. So, by the way, these are the 6 quotes that me and ChatGPT picked for you. But you have to understand, there's just so many more. And again, I can't emphasize enough. This research was done by the UK government to prove to themselves that they need to start taking some actions against men like me, manosphere, red pill influencers, and red pill content, and censor it, right? But this research showed that, yeah, they might be wrong. This might be actually good for men. And where the fuck are men in these studies and in the UK government, or really in any Western government anymore, right? I don't see how, especially in American and modern politics, especially with Trump being in charge, how a man can stand up for other men and really have any real consequences at this point. You know what I mean? Uh, so let me take another question. We'll get back to it. I'm a subscriber of this channel only because of the integrity, courage, and directness shown on your EV channel. Okay, I used to have an electric car channel for a few years before this, which I had to stop because you can't go on getting major manufacturers, automakers sponsoring you if you're talking about, this. Western men should benefit from your input on mass migration, I think. Yeah, listen, I'm actually, it's funny you mentioning it. Today, after this, after I do all of the cuts and stuff like that, with my editor, I was going to even maybe take the rest of the week off or whatever, maybe on the weekend, think about if I wanted to pivot this channel. Now, I have been kind of pivoting this channel every 2 or 3 months, right? Now I just exclusively do daily news, right? The Red Pill Daily News. But I also have an AI video, what it's like to date in 2050 with a passport bro theme that I've been working on for a while. It's a 30-second video that took me 25 actual hours to create. AI is not that easy to create currently, especially if you want quality videos. So yeah, I'll be thinking about that. And like I said, men migrating would only be because of those two reasons, right? So I'm already covering those two reasons, right? Impossible to date Western in the West, and the way Western societies treat men. That's kind of been my theme all along. So and that's what my course at my website is. So, all right. Well, listen, I'm probably going to be back tomorrow. I should be back tomorrow for the same. I don't want to like stop in midweek, but I will also rethink my content. But like I said, a lot of it is just the fact that you can't succeed that easily on social media platforms. Like I said, TikTok is probably just about to ban me, as they've done many other creators. They removed like a bunch of comments that I've made, red pill comments on their platform the other day. Red Note banned me for sure. Reddit banned me. I don't know what it is with the red something names that banning me, but so like it's getting kind of, and I just don't. I did not realize how much harder it is to red pill men. I would have thought if you come up to a man and say, "Listen, let me tell you how to gain some self-respect, get better quality women, and lose less money," you would think that man would be like, "Yeah, please show me." But they usually go like, fuck off, I'm happy where I'm at with my simp girlfriend and being a bitch in this society. So it's not as easy as I thought. So I might rethink that. But thank you for being a subscriber and being a follower all the way from my electric car channel, which I loved dearly. I don't want to say made rested in peace, because I might still get back to it one day, but that industry right now is in such a gutter. I don't really want to touch it, honestly. So it is what it is at this point. And let's see. I thought I had a course promo, but I don't. Well, anyway, I will. Okay, well, let me take a couple more um, quick comments. The Rock says most of the platforms you're in, including YouTube, are still bowing to women, so it's no surprise that you get banned threats everywhere. Yeah, and they're not even threats. They look like like I made content about because I follow Charlie Kirk because he was a supporter of men's issues, right? I disagree with him on almost all other issues, but that to me was very important, and I thought the loss of Charlie Kirk was a big deal. But I also explained to people in different various videos about, I made 6 or 7 about him. How in the world this topic that everybody was talking about, including here in Thailand, everybody knows, right? How is this my videos are doing the same amount of views on that hot topic as all of my other videos from months before? It tells me that the algorithms, or whatever you want to call them, basically say, listen, we'll give this guy 300 views, which is really nothing if you think about it. But after that, no matter what the video is, we're just going to not give him any more views, right? And it looks like by the numbers that all platforms are doing that. So it's definitely the manosphere, the red pill content is definitely being blocked one way or another on these platforms. So I'm just questioning myself, do I want to go against, like, I am essentially a guest, I guess, on their platforms, even though we make money for them. So if they don't want me here, do I have a chance to be successful here, right? All right. I was meaning mass migration into the West, if that was unclear. Uh, yeah, that wasn't clear. So let me read your previous message. Um, I was surprised on the channel only because of the Ukrainian. A Western man should benefit from your input on mass migration, I think. But if you're saying the mass migration into the West, that doesn't even make sense. I suggest that men leave America, men leave the UK. Not only just for the dating purposes and having access to women who actually want to be good wives and girlfriends and so forth, and access to sex on top of that, but also because just legally and culturally, Western men are second class citizens. It's not even like, it's just their laws that suggest that. So I'm not really sure what you mean. But all right, well, hopefully you can join me tomorrow and we'll continue this discussion. But for now, I will research yet another topic and come up with yet another live stream tomorrow. And have an awesome the rest of your night. I'm sure where you're watching me from is nighttime. It is afternoon here. I'm just about to go out and get some delicious Thai food, and I will see you tomorrow.